Getting through, is it really worth it? All that agony and desperation, all that torture and despair that is the consequence and other side of love and ecstasy, the abyss of that hell that heaven's bliss inevitably leads to, ending up in knots of opposites, the heavenly existence and its liberation proving but a trap and desperate entanglement of jealousies, complexities, suspicions, sleeplessness and nightmares. But the issue is of no importance, since love never can be done without, evaded or escaped from. It is always there, expecting you and waiting for you, and there is no way out but to just get through with it, and while you suffer it, you might as well enjoy it. Baksmällan dagen efter, boksmällan efter bokmossan. Tautologin är fullkomligt medveten, ty så känns det. Efterdyningarna, dånande baksmällorna, de fortlöpande duvningarna, susningarna efter krascherna. Det är ej lätt att hämta sig efter mässfallet som gick i taket, då man ju ligger blåslagen och fullkomligt eftersläckt av den omfattande utslagningen. Att stå där 4 dagar, varje dag på golvet mitt i flödet av allt prat och propagandaflöde är att låta sig bli dränkt av en långt värre syndaflod än den som allt nu är färskt i minnet efter den där katastrofen som någon minns för en 5-6 tusen år sedan. Så ursäkta mig att jag ej är i stånd att mer ha något stånd just nu, plakat och avsmäld som man är av bokmässfallets kataklysmers omfattande, tillplattande manglingars hejdundrande, besinningslösa rus. Facebook reflections. They say it's only for the young, a forum for displaying vanity, a wallowing in nonsense and an endless jungle of confusion. But it's in fact a very clever site, well programmed, trimmed and working well, a kind of ideal social network for anyone to keep in touch with all his friends or hers on a continuous, regular and daily basis, with a smart and most efficient possibility to exchange ideas and links and pictures. Yes, it is the ideal social network for the busy person who has little time to spend in actual company of all his friends, while he can reach whomever all across the world by simply looking up in his computer what his friends are writing and communicating universally, but simply in the common Facebook which, accessible to everyone, belongs to everyone. The mask. You veil yourself in most mysterious disguises as you enter prying into love in masks that not just hide your face away, but even all your personality, neutralizing and dissolving all your sex, to give full entry to your overwhelming love that flows so generously without end, so as to raise suspicions as to who you really are. Perhaps it's better not to know it, but to be content with your unfathomableness, which in its unidentifiable disguises is the perfected, manifested mystery of love. Delirium. You are a concrete person, no mistake, although I mainly see you from behind, where nonetheless your beauty fills me overwhelmingly with joyfulness, delirium, and repletes my life with lovely dreams of love that promises eternal continuity, for such is beauty's force and influence, more strong than anything on earth, especially when clad in weakness and humility. Thus am I sneaking constantly up from behind to you, to never let you go out of my love that keeps caressing, worshipping and cherishing you in fondest sweetness indefatigably, keeping up that soft delirium, never to diminish, but to, on the contrary, forever grow, for there is no more reliable long-term expansion than the labour of untiring love. Backstage. The dream of love will never end, but constantly perfume our daily lives with never-ending fragrance of sublime and subtle dreams that are more real than ever our reality will be, since love, the background motor of all life's existence, is all-powerful but only in spirituality, the action being just a consequential play. The background lovers, then, are those who truly know something about it and will keep controlling it, sustaining life in perfectly expanding continuity as long as they remain invisible behind the scenes, aware of the importance of safeguarding the most sacred secret mystery of love's untouchability in order to remain all-powerful. Dead end of conspiracies. When everything is turned against you, what can you do? Just nothing. Maybe you could simply scrap a thing or two, some uncooperative apparatus like an obstinate computer that just drives you nuts, with other electronic instruments, all turned against you in a hopeless conspiration that gives you no other choice but to give up and leave it all to hell, renouncing all responsibility. And when you finally succeeded in efficiently doing away with all those fucking monsters that just turned your life into a dead-end trap, a regular straight-jacket of obstructions, sabotage, disorder, havoc, mess, and bloody hell, then maybe you could start again in yet another effort to make something sensible out of your life just for a change. Considering the fact that I'm late for work and out of work and can't get done my work since there's too much of it and I just can't get out of it, I might as well just call it off and stop here at my work to spend the night here working in my sleep. It's not a very good idea. I should go home to bed instead and stay there with my love that I keep constantly neglecting, while the less that I neglect my work, the less of it I manage to get done. So what's the use of getting constantly mixed up in this and never get things sorted out? My love is there and waiting for me, and so is my work, but they can never be combined. So let's reach a compromise. Let's work just with my love in mind, and let us sleep just dreaming of my love, and maybe then we will get something done. Mermaid love. My love is gone down under to the bottom of the ocean, swimming there along in fairy tales with dolphins like a pursued mermaid that no mortal can join up with, but my company's hers, and love knows of no limitation. We can float and flow forever in the best of companies with elves and fairies, mermaids, angels, and what not, and never tire of that flexibility, enabling us to any change of form to just keep on pursuing love into the utmost bottomless recesses of the universal abyss of profundity of true and everlasting love. The song of sirens. They really mean no harm, and all they want is love. And it is perfectly convincing, their alluring song of love, that is so desperately beautiful that no one can resist its perfect and expressive honesty. Still, the only consequence is wrecks and ruins, skeletons and ruined lives, and no one knows what happened to the victims. All they did was to approve of love and listen to its perfect music and become enticed by it quite naturally. They were only human, and they drank the song of love and perished. No one has survived to tell their story. They were sailors all and children of the sea, who met with the consummate form of love in highest musical unfathomableness and beauty. And as far as anybody knows, no one of them regretted it. The most impossible equation, the sunken love beneath the waves, seems hopelessly to have been lost forever, buried in the ocean world of tears where nothing is retrieved or can be found. The grave that takes it all, returning nothing. But how come then that my love still hovers in a constant flight on wings of elves that never can be caught or taken down to earth, and that a few initiated only can be made aware of, and that only the mind's eye can see, apart of course from second sight? That is the strange impossibility and paradox, that although I have lost my love forever, it is more alive than ever. Sea of love, let me drown you in my sea of love and sink with you into the waves of everlasting tempests, turbulence, and wholesome fleeting movements in this world of constant change, where we together may carouse and blend in life's surprising journey of dramatic destinies and fateful turns that ever make us start again on new adventures into the profundity of this amazing sea of love affairs that ever seem to multiply in richness as intoxicating as your hair, this universe of beauty to get lost in, while this worship keeps us ever diligent in making never-tiring love. So let's get buried and get lost into the abyss of a stormy ocean, of a passion that can never end but only must increase forever. Flying colours, let me not forget to love you, soul and body, heart and mind, all the time and never leave you, but in absence even always keep you present in my mind uninterruptedly, persistently in close communication, never to forget the most important of all facts, that I have not the right to live if I for a moment fail to love. To keep that light and fire burning that must never be extinguished but must burn forever, to keep hope and life alive in sustained and constant flying colours, since that's all we really need. Skadskjuten, sårat lejon ryter illa, vingbruten fågel kan ej klaga. Smärtans träsk är tyst som graven, då levande begravda varken syns eller hörs. Men det finns alla där, de tysta invaliderna, alla de som tiger och lider och finner tigandet därom det enda som kan göra det uthärdligt. Och lever vidare på kryckor, i rullstolar, utan tröst i tystnad och utan att klaga i stolthet. Och så fortsätter ständigt det eviga livet i sitt ständigt döda lopp, i det ständigt pågående lidande som åtminstone får en att känna att man lever. To a holy mountain, this crowning day of beauty is like a dream of ideal worship, of a deity omnipresent and untouchable, but still accessible and visible, though completely out of reach, in perfect purity and splendor, way out there 5,000 meters up, in never-matched glorious supremacy, fitting only for the absolute divinity. Thus do I worship thee, O holy mountain, perfect symbol for the unattainable perfection, out of reach but omnipresent, in impressing beauty that shines out forever. Love in the mist. You came invisible except for contours through the fogs of mystery and mists of random chance, and found me out immediately, as if you actually could read my mind like any open book, which would be understandable since you have read me through for 30 years. Still, this entrance through the clouds is most characteristic of a spurious relationship, with all those accidental meetings out of nowhere, out of time, which ever grows in intimacy into ever denser mists of mystery. Moonlight skywalk. In this darkness, light is universal. Nothing could possibly harm or touch me in this charming haze of sacred mists of mystery, as moonlight floods the earth and lights my path through any night to nowhere, anywhere but always forward to continuously greater heights of beauty and its ever-waxing glory, through the landscape dreams of ever denser magic, as I reach for you beyond the stars, full well aware that you are always there, in constant wait for me, in loyalty and faithfulness. Like I have never let you down, my love of shining moonlight, through eternal nights of love where we shall never tire of aspiring further to the stars, beyond the endless beauty of the universe. The other side of love. Love brings you the serenest heights of ecstasy, but as sometimes you must do without it, you are plunged into the depths of most unbearable despair and feel yourself abandoned on a desert ocean of melancholy, the stillness of which is the worst of all, as you drift lonely in the universe, just falling through the utmost emptiness, down to a bottom that does not exist, of darkness growing ever darker and more hollow. But this melancholy is, however, just a remedy, a medicine and balance to your trips of love exorbitances and love ecstasies, and you should take it just for what it is, the other side of paradise and any shining medal, which exists just to enhance the glory of the front, the background darkness to lift forth the light, the endless midnight sky of universal inaccessibility to just add glory to the blinding light of day, and all its present swarming life of splendor, wallowing in love to never reach an end on it. The Darjeeling Lecture, delivered in Darjeeling 2000 and revised in 2009, an orientation in contemporary literature. The Bible, Homer, Dante, Shakespeare. These are the four cornerstones of world literature and civilization. The Bible as foundation for the three monotheistic world religions, Homer as the firm ground of the whole classical civilization, Dante as the originator of the Renaissance, and Shakespeare as the maker of modern man. These four authorities almost make up half of the history of literature. Victor Hugo, Charles Dickens, Dostoevsky, Leo Tolstoy. These are the four literary giants dominating the 19th century. Victor Hugo by his romantic spirit, Dickens with his humanitarian pathos, Dostoevsky by his psychology, and Leo Tolstoy by his realism. Then comes the 20th century, but why don't we have giants like this in that age? The First World War destroyed an entire generation of hopes and talents. Such a brilliant and promising novelist as Henri Alain Fournier fell on the Western Front. Many were the poets that shared his fate, like Rupert Brooke and Wilfred Owen, and the Second World War was even worse. The disaster of the first half of the century made it almost impossible for creative writers of classical literature to exist. Among the most typical examples are the collaborating couple Romain Rolland, Stefan Zweig, pacifists who detached themselves from the mundane world and almost completely dedicated themselves to writing only biographies, to preserve for the future the lives of real artists and writers, the existence of which a new unhuman age had made impossible. Romain Rolland ended up as a Hinduist, and Stefan Zweig, after perhaps the most brilliant literary career of the 20th century, committed suicide in the third year of the Second World War, being an Austrian and a Jew. He found it impossible to exist in a world which could have brought an Adolf Hitler to power. All the same, there have been writers in the 20th century, but what kind has dominated it? Affected modernists and posing humbugs like T.S. Eliot, James Joyce, Samuel Beckett, and other freaks and frauds of unintelligible language distortions. Classical literature has almost completely disappeared, like classical art and music, to be replaced by nonsense, ugliness, and noise. Fortunately, there have been exceptions, though, and a few examples are worth keeping in mind. In America, there are but very few, since vulgarity seems to dominate everything produced there, but in England we have several interesting examples. Robert Graves had enough of the Western world by the First World War, and afterwards almost exclusively dedicated himself to classical history and mythology. Joseph Conrad was a Pole, but wrote in English, and his greatest admirer was Graham Greene, who must be regarded as one of the most important authors of the century, like the great connoisseur of human nature William Somerset Maugham. Another underestimated writer is James Hilton, educated at Cambridge with his sometimes ingenious novels. Among later authors, John Fowles should be noted, whose novel The French Lieutenant's Woman is a successful attempt at reviving the great 19th century novel. Let's also remember a few authors outside England. By the epoch-making Dr. Zhivago, Boris Pasternak continues the great Russian tradition from Dostoevsky and Tolstoy. The dramas of Jean-Paul Sartre are completely original and very effective, while at the same time he continues the tradition of the ancient Greek drama. Another very important modern novel is the Italian Elsa Morante's History, in its deep neorealistic settlement with the times of Mussolini and fascism. Although the great romantic realistic storytelling tradition has had its hardest setbacks since the darkest medieval ages, it has survived and is continuing. But the same rule applies as ever. We have nothing else to build on but tradition. We have our great universal examples in the Bible, Homer, Dante, and Shakespeare. And we have the great 19th century novelists to look up to. And even if the first half of the 20th century was almost only disastrous adversities, we still have the old examples to keep in mind, continue to learn from, and keep up for the future. Why then, finally, is that tradition so important? Why bother about reading books? Because in those great immortal sacred books we have all the humanity there is. We have to look to them to find the sources of humanity, humanitarianism, the very identity of civilized man. The great classical writers are those who best understood and knew about man, and thus could improve him by setting new examples. That's why I call the writer behind Shakespeare's dramas the maker of modern man, for so far no one has understood human nature better and improved it more than he. Concerning the art of writing, there are three things to always bear in mind: concentration, meaning, and style. Whatever you write, it must be as concentrated as possible not to be boring. It has to have a meaning. There is never any meaning in nonsense, for instance, while style can only be acquired by diligent practice. It usually comes with the years. The best practice of all, however, is simply to be a good reader, to read as much as possible of qualified literature, preferably classics, and learn from what others have written. Knowledge is, of course, perhaps the most important of all, which you can only acquire by lots of reading and practice. One good book to learn a lot from, and a magnificent example of concentration and style, is Somerset Maugham's The Summing Up, a quite small book that, however, never can be exhausted for its best possible advice to all readers and writers.